at 5:30. I do want to remind you that via KFAN.com/watch, you can watch our interview that is starting right now with the one and only Joey Mulinaro, kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Let me remind you, before we say hi to Joey, the NFC North Tour continues for him at the Amsterdam Bar and Hall in St. Paul, Minnesota. That's this coming Tuesday, May 7th, 8 o'clock start. And tickets you can get via officialjoeymulinaro.com. Joey, can you hear us okay?
Gotcha, Dan.
Loud
How
and
are
clear.
you?
We're doing well. Thank you for giving us a couple of minutes. And let me get one thing straight off the top. My producer mentioned that he's watched several interviews like these in which you have been introduced sometimes as Joey Mulinaro and sometimes as Joey Molinaro. So I'm assuming it's Naro, but I guess you can give us the official clarification on this so we get it right. Is that correct? Is it Molinaro or Molinaro, tomato?
You know what, Dan? It's been such a journey my entire life. I've just quit caring. Whatever you want to call me.
That's even better.
You can call me whatever. It don't matter. Tomato, like you said, 6 does one, half dozen the other. Molinaro. Depends on what part of the country you're from. Whatever you want, Dan. I'm just glad to be here and talking to you.
It's good. You're living the dream, aren't you? That's how you feel. That's how you sound today, and that's how you've tended to sound. This has been a nice ride you're on.
Yeah, I'm trying. Now you feel like I'm back at the office at my old job. Hey, you living the dream? You're working hard? You're hardly working? You're kind of getting some of what's going. But it is. Yeah, Dan, I've been really lucky, and I'm having a blast just going around the country and doing different voices on stage and making a fool of myself.
So you, once upon a time, and we're going to get to all that in a minute, once upon a time, you are what? You're working for a radio station in Indianapolis. I know the city well. I went to IU many years ago. I'm an old guy, but I was there, and I still visit there occasionally. And so you're a radio producer, right? You're doing the sort of grunt work that is associated with, thankless in many cases. That's basically what you come from. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of everything. I was doing digital work behind the scenes. I was kind of running socials and everything. But you remember, maybe you don't. It was a little different for you, I'm sure, back then. But you're just trying to do whatever you can to just break through and get noticed. And like you said, for me to get out behind the glass of producing, local sports talk radio or having an hour-long radio show at 7 a.m. on Saturday mornings that only 8 people are listening to, and 4 of them were my family members. So that was basically it, Dan. It was just trying to have something to separate myself from the pack a little bit. And so I started doing some voices and putting them out there, and that was something that just, eventually has led to this, I guess.
So the Saban, you've been asked this 1,000 times, but for our audience, I think it's probably worth noting. The Saban Thanksgiving deal, that was sort of the thing that's where you not only, pushed the door open, you basically, nailed it down and just, went right through it. Is that the big breakthrough, or are we missing something before that made you say, I got something going here maybe?
Yeah, so look at you guys doing your research at KFAN. I love it, man. This is great stuff. So Andrew Luck was kind of if you're doing like the classic police chase scene in a movie, and they get the person in the closet and they have to bust down the door. Andrew Luck was like the first kick. They never get it on the first kick, right? And then Saban was when they bring the big old barrier bulldozer in and blast it open. That was Saban. So Luck was the first one that really kind of was like, oh, and then Saban 2019. That's life-changing, if you will, if you believe in that kind of thing.
And how does that dawning take place? Is it views? Is it somebody tapping on the shoulder and saying, son, you're in some rarefied air here potentially. If you don't blow this could go someplace good. How do you realize that, all right, something different has just happened for me?
I guess just the fact that for the first time in my professional life, everyone else cared just as much, if not more than I did.
Yeah.
My entire life leading up to that point, it was like, yeah, I'm doing this broadcast. I'm the producer of this show. I'm doing these updates. I'm on this thing. Everybody was like, oh, you're still like, okay, cool. And then that was really it. So that, but then also people who I look up to and have looked up to were like taking notice. And so combining those things together, that was the real like, maybe onto something here. This may be the thing. This is cool.
Part of the reason I think this thing is going to last, you have a good chance for it to last, and I know you've talked about this in the past, it's that you may use many of the same, coaches, athletes, voices, whatever, but you keep it current because you'll have them bouncing off of things you would perhaps never associate with those individuals. A la, you could say there's a little bit of that Saturday Night Live thing in there. I think that to me is what I assume makes it fresh for you, keeps it interesting for you as well.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, it's all about like doing it enough, but not too much, right? Like giving everybody that flavor of it, the taste of it, but not beating them over the head with it, in my opinion. And then I always said too, Dan, like, I always wanted to do this my whole life. Like it was always a dream. It was always the goal. But up until that point, like we were talking about when I was, behind the glass window for local sports talk radio, like I hadn't hit that thing yet. So I was just waiting. I said, okay, if I ever get my break, if you will, I know I'm going to be able to keep people. I'm confident in that because I've this is what I've always wanted to do. It wasn't just like a one-off thing that I've been like, oh, holy cow, what am I supposed to do now? I'm trying to keep up with it. It was always what I wanted to do. I was just waiting for that thing that really set it up. And so once that breaking down that door was Saban, then I was like, oh, I got you now. Now I have an audience. I'm just going to keep an audience. And that's my whole goal, is to keep it fresh. Like you said, come up with new characters, come up with new sketches, come up with new impressions that are timely and current, like you were talking about. So it was all just about getting them there. Once I got them there, I had confidence I could keep them there. It just took a while to get them there.
Here's, to me, at least from my perspective, another key element for you is a lot of your characters, or at least some of them, ain't famous. They are everyman. The wedding guy. How many people have told you how relatable they find that character. So that's the other thing I think that speaks to your versatility, is it's not just the famous people thing, which is great. It's finding somebody that everybody can seemingly relate to, like that idiot who's trying to not really, talk to the people that they'll never speak to again, but feel like they have to in that uncomfortable moment before the wedding party. That's been a big piece of this. Where does that fit in? Did that come after? Was that you doing that sort of stuff all along as well?
Well, two things, and I appreciate that, Dan. It's very kind. Thank you. But two things. I grew up in a Seinfeld household. So my parents had Seinfeld on all the time. I just feel like my entire childhood was just the theme music in the background on like a Tuesday evening. So I grew up in that kind of Costanza Seinfeld world. And then two, I saw a quote, or heard a quote by Eddie Murphy. It's like, all comedy is the art of observation. And so when I combine those two things together, I'm just like, okay, that's my entire life. I live not to go to a wedding, get drunk, and have fun, but to pick up on all the little stupid idiosyncrasies that we all have to BS our way through at every single one of those events. It's a really sick and twisted life, but I enjoy it.
No, it may be sick and twisted, but it has, I think, that gives it some universal appeal as well. I thought I also read someplace that you were going to college, I think, in Indianapolis. I'm not sure where. And you glommed onto you took a course, I think, for writing for television. So tell me when that was and how that fits into this whole continuum.
That was, yes, man. I'm so impressed. Best interview I've ever done. You guys are grade A here. This is awesome. It started because I was in school for sports broadcasting at University of Indianapolis, a little D2 school about 10 minutes south of downtown. Used to be called Indiana Central when you were around, probably.
That's probably true. You're right, Dad. I do recognize that name.
It changed fairly recently, to be fair. But I was in sports broadcasting, and so I just had to fill credits, and so I took this class, writing for television, and I went into it, and I was thinking, this is going to be something that's like writing for news broadcasts, like it'll be fine, but it's probably not going to be anything crazy. And all it was a class about how to write comedy for television, spec scripts and pilots, and come up with characters and ideas. And it was just this massive light bulb moment in my life of like, I was 21 years old, and I just looked at my professor on the second course. I'll never forget. And I said, people actually like this is a real thing? Like people get paid for this?" And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, if you're good enough, yeah, you can. That's a job." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the lightning bolt. This is it. If I can get paid and have a roof over my head to write jokes, to write silly things, to have fun, to make people laugh, that is the ultimum. That is the ultimum."
Yeah, and it's worked out very, very well. So I'm not very the part I'm not very good at is cueing a talented comedian who does impressions to say, okay, give us some Harbaugh, give us some Mahomes, whatever. So that's the best I can do. That's not a very artful cue, but you know what people want. They want to know what they're going to hear Tuesday here at the Amsterdam Bar and Hall in St. Paul. They want a little taste of it because that's what's going to bring a real smile to their faces. You got anything for us that you can give us?
Patrick Mahomes, he's in the news all the time. I mean, I'd say Patrick Mahomes, his thoughts on the Vikings, right? I mean,
there you go.
Right. It's KFAN, right? I'm really excited about the future of the Vikings. I mean, I think Justin Jefferson is an all-time talent. I would love to throw to him. I mean, I could throw it to a traffic cone and I'll put him in the Pro Bowl, so it doesn't really matter to me. But super excited for Justin Jefferson. You got the JJ connection now, JJ McCarthy to Justin Jefferson. So JJ's popping off in Minnesota. Super excited for them. But I mean, you still got to go through us at the end of the day. So back-to-back Super Bowl champs. I'm hanging out with Taylor Swift all the time. Doesn't really matter to me, but I guess you guys have got a good thing going on.
How about Harbaugh missing life in the college portal? Anything from him you can give us?
See, the thing about Jim, though, Dan, is it's more so like it's just sometimes. Here's another thing, Dan. Like I have some characters that I fit into my sketches that are just meant to be side parts of said sketch, right?
That's
so
fair.
If I have Jim Harbaugh talking to Jim Irsay's leading the way. Jim Harbaugh is just kind of along for the ride, and you kind of put him in a situation where he's like, yeah, what are we talking about? Like he's clueless. He doesn't know where he is. He's just dropped into these situations at all times.
And a lot of it's visual with you too. That's the other. There's obviously a great visual component in lots of these. I think you nail Harbaugh really well there.
Like that. Yeah, for ones like that.
For sure.
You know, when you come see me, it's not all just pull the yank and chain and go. You know what I mean? Like I have a full act. I talk about a bunch of different things. Being a dad of 2 kids, growing up in Catholic schools, playing travel baseball, all those things. You know, it's a full encompassing act, and I definitely sprinkle in, my impressions throughout. Right?
Is there any chance you could give us a little Collinsworth, maybe as a receiver, analyzing the quarterback out of Michigan that the Vikings just drafted, obviously in the first round, J.J. McCarthy? Anything there, maybe?
Boy, I tell you what, when I look at a guy like J.J. McCarthy, I say, here's a guy that you can build your franchise around. He's an all-American kid. He's got the great smile, perfect hair. Maybe not as good as mine, but still, he's got a lot to work with up there in Minneapolis. I know everybody in the Twin Cities is certainly going to be excited about it. I know I sure am. I can't wait to get up there with Mike on Sunday Night Football and see him sling that rock around. There is no doubt about it.
By the way, Joey, there's a Chris Collinsworth story directly related to this show. Well, actually, a show I used to partner with on this same frequency going back, probably 30 years. And the story is that Collinsworth was coming into town to cover whatever that game was on that Sunday or whatever. I don't know if it was a night game. Anyway, he's coming into town, and I guess he must do this a lot. He gets in a cab on a Friday afternoon. He says, hey, do me a favor, put on the all sports station. I just kind of like to get a flavor of what people are talking about regarding the Sunday game, Vikings, Packers, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So he turns on our frequency and he turns on our show. And what he quickly learned is, although we're a sports station, we tend to talk about everything, and we're not obligated. We don't feel obligated to just talk about the game. So after about 25 minutes of listening to me and my partner babbling on who knows, politics, pop culture, music, whining about the weather, he called in to the hotline here to complain, got a number somehow to call in and just raise the producer the riot act. Like, what kind of stupid sports station do you guys run? And so that's my Chris Collinsworth. That's the closest I got I think, to Chris Collinsworth on this particular program. Because
that kind of surprises me, Dan, because, you watch Chris Collinsworth on TV.
Yeah.
And you just look like he's already had 4 beers. He's not drunk, but he's a little buzzed, and he's feeling good. And he just wants to have a good time in his, Jimmy Buffett Hawaiian shirt. And so that's pretty surprising to hear that he would call in like that and have such interesting takes on your guys' talk show.
Gargi, do you want to jump in real quick?
Yeah, real quick. First of all, Joey, thanks. The producer group chat here is really lit up since you've described what a great life we have here behind the glass, and now on the stream, we're all in this glass and coast. So we're all feeling great about this whole deal. But you mentioned that this might be one of the best interviews that you've ever done with Dan. I'm curious what Mel Kiper would think about Dan as an interview if he was going to give an evaluation on Dan Barreiro.
Yeah, it's like first round grade, absolutely. I mean, he comes in prepared. He knows what he's talking about. He does his background research. He is a grade A1 talent, even though Chris Collinsworth doesn't like him, doesn't believe in what he's doing, doesn't like what he talks about on his own airways. But hey, that's his show. He decides what he wants to do. So a different first round grade overall for Dan.
Outstanding. By the way, I know you've been asked this before, but Saban, has Saban given you the seal of approval for, is he find you amusing? Is it fun? Have you had any time around Nick? Because to me, that's about as good as any of your items. What's Nick's reaction been to your bit on him?
Thank you. Yeah, it's still up in the air. we still don't really know. He's, I've compared him to he's kind of like a football Batman in a way. He's kind of just like lurking in the shadows. You don't ever really know when he's going to pop up, what he's going to think. And frankly, I mean, we know that he's kind of the opposite of Collinsworth publicly. He always appears to be quite pissed off.
Yes.
So I have had interaction online with his daughter. She follows me. She said, "Oh yeah, I show them. They'll name him Miss Terry. They get a kick out of it." But the time that I've met him, the one time I've met him in person, it did not go over in a way that I think he would be a fan of what I do. And that's a little tease, as we say in the biz, right?
Nice.
Dan? That's something that you hear about when you come see me in my performance.
Tuesday, May 7th. That's this coming Tuesday, 8 p.m. Joey Mulinaro, the NFC North Tour at Amsterdam Bar and Hall in St. Paul. Tickets, again, available via officialjoeymulinaro.com. Last item for you today. We appreciate the time and the conversation. So the question for someone like you is always, okay, what's next? What's the next step? And again, based on some of the reading I've done, it sounds like in your perfect world, the next step for you is straight, what quote unquote, whatever this means, straight comedy and acting. So can you give us a little more detail on that? Or how do you envision, if it goes the way you want it to go, where is this headed?
Well, I mean, right now, just want my wife to not hate me completely and my 2 kids to not think I'm a loser. I got a 1.5-year-old son and a 2-month-old daughter. And, it's interesting that my wife is still with me for almost 5 years after I pretty much just, do nothing but talk in different voices on camera and scream at myself. So that's what my main focus is right now. But yeah, in an ideal world, Dan, acting, coming to see me not only live performing, but on the television or on the big screen. So the process that goes behind that, it's grueling as you can expect.
Yeah.
A lot of no's, a whole lot of no's, and you just got to keep trucking along, man. Just got to keep going. I think Minnesota fans can relate to that, right?
Oh God, yes.
Had a lot of heartbreak, but you're just holding up for that one, man, because it just takes that one. So that's where I'm at right now.
Good conversation. Best of luck coming to town. I think it's going to be between 60 and 70 next week, so you're not going to have to worry about any. Well, you're a guy, but you grew up in reasonably cold weather, but it should be fun, and we'll continue to pass along details on ticket information for you. Thanks for giving us time. Congratulations on the run.
Thank you for giving me the time, Dan. Really appreciate it. Nice to talk to you. And I just want to say real quick, I saw Paul Allen is on these airwaves.
Yes.
And I know he's a big star now all of a sudden. And so me and my buddy, we do a show, and we always laugh about come on, man. This is the Super Bowl. This isn't Detroit. All the time.
Perfect.
No!
He'll get a kick out of that. Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you. Bye.
Take care. That is Joey Mulinaro on the NFC North Tour, as I said, coming to St. Paul next Tuesday. Let's get caught up. We've had two outstanding guests early. Quasi off the top of the show, Joey now. And yet, still to come today, Mike Conley, Timberwolves, and Pat Kessler in studio, 5:30.